and for all of these season previews, we do a schedule breakdown. Real quick, this is just kind of, obviously we're so far away from the season, but just kind of tentatively what I have for the Dallas Cowboys. And obviously, this is a very hard schedule. A lot of people think, oh, third place schedule. No, fifth hardest schedule in the NFL based off of 2024 opponent win percentage. You face both number one seeds. 9 of their games come against teams who made the playoffs last year. And then you're talking about you're on opening night against the Eagles. Then you're playing on Thanksgiving against the Chiefs. You're always playing on Thanksgiving, but you have to do it against the 3-time reigning AFC champions. And then you're on the road against a really good Commanders division rival on Christmas. I mean, if there is going to be an America's team, it is the Dallas Cowboys, and that's a really tough schedule down the stretch. Overall, what stands out to you?
Yeah, it's definitely right after that bye. I mean, you get the Raiders. They should be okay against them, especially at home. But then that Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, and then really Minnesota, if J.J. McCarthy's the guy, that's a tough one too, going right into really even the Chargers and honestly, even with Washington on the road in week 17, that might be your worst weather game that you play in. So that's really the stretch. And so what that says to me when I look at their schedule is that there's just no excuse they have to start hot. Like they won't be able to make up for it on the back end. And so it's in their best interest to, especially first year head coach, to try and get off to a hot start. And what do you have week 1? You know, a game that, I mean, I want to say even from the maybe it was the day the schedule came out up till now, Eagles have been favored by at least a touchdown in that game everywhere you look. And I don't see any reason. Now, maybe there is the whole, hanging the banner ceremony celebration that they overlook. It is the first game of the season. Maybe Dak has played pretty well throughout his career against the Eagles. Maybe they kind of surprise him there, but that's a tough game to start your season off with. But no, I have no issues with the wins and losses that you picked and the final record. Yeah, I think somewhere between 8 to 10 wins makes sense. But if they have the injuries they had last year, certainly could be a 5 to 7 win team.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you do have to get off to that hot start because it's Philadelphia, but then it's a Giants team that clearly is in a rebuilding mode, a Bears team you just don't know, and then you also have in there the Jets, the Panthers. Like, you got to start to stack up some wins there, and you got to hope. I think they will split with Philadelphia. They struggle to play in Dallas. I think you'll split with Washington. You'll most definitely should split, or if not sweep, the New York Giants. So I think you try to set yourself up well, but then it just gets really tough. I mean, that Week 9 primetime game of Monday Night Football against the Cardinals, I'm kind of circling because Arizona's coming off the bye in that game. And then you have that performance. Then you go to your bye, and then you're once again on primetime in Las Vegas. Whether the Raiders are good or not, that's still a tough environment to play in. And then 4 your final 6 games are on primetime, all against playoff teams a year ago. So that stretch, like after week 8, is brutal, even with the bye kind of in there. So you're 100% right. I think they do need to get off to a hot start because if not, they will not be able to compete for a real postseason position kind of in the second half. We're talking about some of the divisions here. How do you believe Dallas will fare against Philadelphia, Washington, and New York in the NFC East?
If everybody's healthy, I still think Philadelphia is just on its own tier. And then after them, I would say is where you get the Cowboys and then Commanders. And then in a third tier would be the Giants. The Commanders have the reason why I put them in the same tier as the Cowboys, whereas I think some people are probably like, well, they just went to the NFC Championship game. They should clearly be ahead of the Cowboys. I get that, but again, my time covering the Cowboys, like I'm actually looking forward to Washington playing the Cowboys, and I haven't been for most of my time covering the Cowboys. Like other than the RG3 year, I mean, it's basically been like, all right, well, I got to cover this game because it's an NFC East game, but I really don't need to go to this game. It's not like there's really not a lot riding on it, and the Cowboys have generally had the upper hand. But now the Commanders are the hunted, and they haven't been the hunted in a long time. So I need to see how they respond to that. That's my big thing is will they build off of that? They very certainly they could. And if they're the same team we saw last year, then by all means, then yeah, I would put them a tier above the Cowboys. I need to see that. There's just too much that went right for them and well for them, particularly late in the season, for me to think that, oh, well, just expect that now. Things change when all of a sudden you play well, and now everyone doesn't look at you as like, oh, it's Washington. We're just going to go into FedEx. We'll beat them. It's not that big of a deal. They're one of the worst run organizations in sports. They sell different ownership. Things have changed there. But still, I'm a little bit in a wait and see with Washington before I put them clearly above the Cowboys.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, now NFL defenses have had one off season to really look at Jaden Daniels and see if they can expose him in any way. Now, it's not entirely his fault, but you look at a guy like CJ Stroud, kind of a little bit of a sophomore slump. Well, you see the same thing with Jaden Daniels. I talked to a lot of people. Some people are really high on the Cowboys. Some people are really low on the Cowboys. I think you have to find a happy medium. I think that's why I have them in 9 wins. I think they could compete for a postseason position, but to me, they got to fix their running game. And you're right, there are some holes defensively on that roster as well. And if for some reason Micah Parsons isn't playing, that changes the whole equation as well. Though, as you mentioned, I don't expect that. Nonetheless, I think this team will compete for a postseason. They will compete for a playoff spot, most likely the wild card. I don't think they'll compete with Philadelphia for the division unless things really do go right. But, this is a team that, take away last season, they had made the playoffs 3 straight years. How do they get back there? Like, what's going to be that next step they have to take to at least return to that level, let alone get to that next point, try to make an NFC championship game?
Yeah, I'm really beating this to death, but I mean, I just come back to health. If you tell me that George Pickens is going to be out there, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, they're going to be in pretty good shape, but the big question marks for me are more on defense with DeMarvion, Overshown, Trayvon Diggs coming back from their injuries. And when you have serious injuries like that, even when you come back, there's no guarantee that you're going to be all the way back and be exactly like the player you were before. So how do you overcome that, And so those are some question marks that will need to be answered. But if you tell me that offense stays healthy, that offense is going to put up a lot of points, even with the question marks at the running game, because there's just too much in the passing game that other teams are going to have to worry about. That it should alone keep the Cowboys in almost every game that they're in, even against better competition, because they should be able to score points. So, if you tell me that they stay healthy, then I think they can compete for probably a wild card spot. I wouldn't pick them to win the division. But I also was one of those things where I don't think it's the end of the world if they win. Let's say they have the exact schedule, they have the exact results that you have right there, and they miss the playoffs, but they go 9-8. I don't think it's the worst thing, just because of the fact that you probably are going to get a Micah Parsons contract done. He's not going anywhere. Dak's not going anywhere. CD's not going anywhere. So now you got a full year of the offensive line playing together. Now you have a full season with Brian Schottenheimer and the new coaching staff. I know Cowboys fans don't want to hear that, but I don't think that the results you have right there would be the worst thing. I know that they want playoff wins and all that. I mean, it's been 29 years, but you also got to be realistic. So I think that schedule that you have right there with those predictions, I think that's pretty realistic.